Classic Bonewits laws of magic explained. Isn't magic a fascinating word which attracts our attention? It is an intriguing science which applies rituals or actions in the belief that they can subdue or manipulate natural or supernatural beings and forces. Imagine having laws explaining magic. Intriguing, isn't it? Philip Emmons Isaac Bonewits was an American neo-druid who was published in a number of books on the subject of neo-paganism and magic. He was a public speaker, liturgist, singer and songwriter too. Bonewits presents 26 laws of magic which he explains are not legislative laws but, like those of physics or of musical harmony, are practical observations that have been accumulated over the course of thousands of years with remarkable similarity in almost every known human culture. Let's know about these laws in detail. The law of knowledge. The essence of this law is that understanding brings control. The more that is known about a subject, the easier it is to exercise control over it. This law is so fundamental that hardly any work on magic has ever been published without mentioning it. It indeed is true that knowledge is power. The law of self-knowledge. The meaning of this law is that the most important kind of magical knowledge is about oneself. Familiarity with one's own strengths and weaknesses is vital to success as a magician. Most magicians quickly discover their own flaws and flaws and try to work with them in sync. The law of cause and effect. The essence of this law is that if exactly the same actions are done under the exact same conditions, they will usually be associated with exact same results. Similar strings of events produce similar outcomes. Magicians have at least as much belief in cause and effect as modern physicists do. They just know that a good ritual, like a good poem or a good bread recipe, isn't always absolutely predictable. The law of synchronicity. It states that if any two or more patterns have elements in common, the patterns interact through those common elements and control of one pattern facilitates control over the others depending upon the number, type, duration or common elements involved. The law of similarity. It states that effects are liable to have an outward physical or mental appearance similar to their causes. Having an accurate image, sound, smell of an object or being facilitates control over it or them. The law of contagion. Objects or beings in physical or psychic contact with each other continue to interact after separation. Everyone your character has ever touched has a psychic link with him, though it is probably pretty weak unless the contact was intense and or repeated frequently. Naturally, having a part of someone's body, nails, hair, spit, blood, etc. gives the best contagion link. Almost as good are the objects of clothing, handkerchiefs, bed sheets, etc. that have absorbed sweat or other bodily fluids from the being your character wishes to magically influence. Law of positive attraction. Like attracts like. To create a particular reality, you must put out energy of a similar sort. This law is often used in attraction spells by saturating the aura of the magician or the client with symbols and energies similar to those wanted. It's also commonly cited for moralistic purposes to discourage unwanted magical behavior on the grounds that behaving badly will attract evil or bad luck. This law may refer to morphic resonances, the tendency for energy shapes to complete themselves, or perhaps wave entertainment, which is the ability of particular vibrations to set up matching vibrations in nearby energy patterns. If either of these phenomena happen to be with psychic energy fields, they could easily cause the effects usually referred to by this law. The law of negative attraction. Like attracts unlike. Energy and actions often attract their opposites. People say that like attracts like, but they also say that opposite attracts. This paradox can be reconciled by contemplating the classical yin-yang symbol. The two halves of the yin-yang are opposite in color but are identical in shape, thus opposite and similar on two different levels of reality. Yet the two halves both interact and repel each other in the eternal circular dance. Any phenomenon more complex than a bacteria can be viewed on several levels, so you can usually find ways in which any two phenomena can be seen as either opposite or similar, depending on which of these laws of attraction you're interested in emphasizing on. The reason this hasn't been clear before is that Western dualism usually picks one aspect of existence that two phenomena have and insists that there's only one important aspect as far as judging the phenomena to be similar or opposite. The laws of names. Knowing the complete and true meaning of an object, being, or process gives one complete control over it. This works because a name is a definition as well as a contagion link. Perhaps, more importantly, it works works because knowing the complete and true name of something or someone means that you have achieved a complete understanding of its or his nature. This is why in most pre-industrial cultures, people are given secret names as well as public names, and why the sharing of a secret name is such an act of trust, because a secret name is considered to be very close to, if not identical with, the person's true name. What's in a name? Everything. The law of words of power. There exist certain words that are able to alter the internal and external realities of those uttering them, and their power may rest in the very sounds of the words as much as in their meanings. Many words are names, and most have known definitions. Barbarous words of power are currently, if not originally, nonsense words that nonetheless can release certain psychic phenomena and states. Very many magical tools require words to be inscribed upon them and or to be said over them during their creation. The law of personification. Any phenomenon may be considered to be alive and to have a personality, that is, to be an entity or being, and may effectively be dealt with. This law is based on fundamental human thought processes and does make doing magic, especially with abstract concepts, much easier. The Law of Invocation. It is possible to establish internal communication with entities from either inside or outside of oneself, said entities seeming to be inside of oneself during the communication process. Invocation or evocation can control the spirit communication processes known as inspiration, conversation, channeling, and temporary possession. The Law of Evocation. It is possible to establish external communication with entities from either inside or outside of oneself, said entities seeming to be outside of oneself during the communication processes. Evocation is the law that controls most summonings. Law of Identification. It is possible through maximum association between elements of oneself and those of another being to actually become that being to the point of sharing its knowledge and wielding its power. This is the law that controls most lengthy or permanent possession phenomena. The Law of Infinite Data. The number of phenomena to be known is infinite. One will never run out of things to learn. The best possible example of this is the internet. You could spend 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, and still never see 1% of information that's out there, and most of human knowledge isn't even on the net yet, as of 1998 anyway. The Law of Finite Senses. Every sense mechanism of every entity is limited by both range and type of data perceived. Many real phenomena exist which may be outside the sensory scanning ability of any given entity. The Law of Personal Universes. Every sentient being lives in and quite possibly creates a unique universe which can never be 100% identical to that lived in by another. So-called reality is in fact a matter of consensus opinions. There is no single reality that exists whether people like it or not. That odd idea is popular due to monotheistic theologies. There are multiple and frequently contradictory realities all existing simultaneously. This law may or may not be the same as the law of infinite universes. The Law of Infinite Universes. The total number of universes into which all possible combinations of existing phenomena could be organized is infinite. Some people consider this law to refer to the alternate probability of worlds of science fiction. However, it has a much wider application. The Law of Pragmatism. If a pattern of belief or behavior enables a being to survive and to accomplish chosen goals, then that belief or behavior is true or real or sensible on whatever levels of reality are involved. The Law of True Falsehoods. It's possible for a concept or act to violate the truth patterns of a given universe and yet to still be true, provided that it works in a specific context. A data pattern may be true on one level of reality and false on another depending upon the circumstances involved. For example, on the normal scholarly level of reality, the thunder gods are a part of the quaint mythologies of our ignorant ancestors and therefore false. But on the level of reality involved in magical rain-making, they are very real indeed. The Law of Synthesis. The synthesis of two or more opposing patterns of data will produce a new pattern that will be truer than either of the first ones that were there. That is, it will be applicable to more realities or levels of reality. This new pattern will not necessarily be a compromise, but maybe something new. The Law of Polarity. Any pattern or data can be split into at least two patterns with opposing characteristics, and each will contain the essence of other within itself. Polarity should not be confused with dualism, a mistake that Westerners have been making for 4,000 years and which has quite possibly led to more all-round misery than any other theological concept concept in history. Dualism assumes that opposites are at war with one another. Polarity assumes that they embrace each other. Creators of D&D did the game world a major favor when they made neutrality as a part of the political and moral alignments in their game. The law versus chaos and good versus evil alignment systems are so common in fantasy games that they're dangerous oversimplifications, but the addition of neutrality and amorality, not to mention the new alignments that have been invented by players and referees, such as hungry, weird, or whimsical, have added far more creativity in character creation and play. The law of dynamic balance. To survive, let alone to become powerful, one must keep every aspect of one's universes in a state of dynamic balance with every other one. Extremism is dangerous on both the personal and evolutionary levels of reality. The law of perversity, also known as the Murphy's Law, Finnegan's Law, etc. If anything can go wrong, it will, and in the most annoying manner possible. Magical associations sometimes operate in the reverse of what was wanted. Meaningful coincidences are just as likely to be unpleasant as they are to be helpful, especially if a lot of emotion goes into related situations. Even if nothing can possibly go wrong, some element of the universe may change so that things will go wrong in any way. The law is probably based on the use of counter magic by one's own subconscious mind for whatever devious or even neurotic reasons it may have. This law explains why some people's magic seems to be working backwards. Emotionally healthy magicians have less problem with this law than unhealthy ones do, and once a magician has reached the master-mistress rank, his klutz factor tends to go down accordingly. The klutz factor or fumble factor is used by many referees to dampen down the effectiveness of high-level magicians who are unbalancing their game universes, but it has a basis in fact as well as in gameplay ability. The law of unity. Every phenomenon in existence is linked directly or indirectly to every other one, past, present, or future. Perceived separations between phenomena are based on incomplete sensing and or thinking. Basically, all is one. These were the laws given by Isaac Bonewits, which are intriguing and also gives us an insight into a magician's mind. So whenever you're watching a magic show or a video on magic, keep these laws in mind. If you enjoyed this video, do like, comment, and subscribe to Explified. And don't forget to press the bell icon. Bye!